I want to have a grassroots.
In his third term, Congressman Chris Murphy is making a move seeking the Senate seat Joe Lieberman will leave. Also, we take the temperature of the renewed debate over paid sick leave. And we're going to talk to some experts about why they say you should try not to take a receipt, the push for chemical reform at the Capitol. You're watching The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. Congressman Chris Murphy is the second person now to announce he'll seek the Senate seat that Senator Joe Lieberman will vacate in 2012. I sat down with Murphy to ask about his hopes for the future, his own, and the state's. If you could talk about the reality of why it is that you had to declare so early and why we're talking about this race 20 months out.
Sure. Listen, the election still is next November. Just because there are candidates that are announcing early doesn't mean that this is a full-time campaign right off the bat. But, you know, the reality of the modern Senate campaign, the size and scope of it, necessitates that you get started early. I don't have personal wealth. I don't have family money. And so, you know, I have to raise the millions of dollars that it takes to run a campaign $1 at a time, essentially. And so now is the time for me to start beginning the process of building that campaign. But my priority, my first, second, and third priority remains doing the job I have now, which is representing the people of the 5th District. I mean, I was going to be running for one office or another 2 years from now, whether it was re-election to the House or a new one. But the work that I'm doing in the House, whether it's trying to protect the gains we've made when it comes to health care reform or trying to continue the work that I've really led in Congress to protect and grow our manufacturing base, to make sure that we keep jobs here in the United States, that when we send our taxpayer dollars to the Defense Department, they're spent on U.S. jobs rather than foreign sourcing. Those are things that I can't give up on. And so my priority remains doing that work in the House, even while I'm building a campaign for the Senate.
You did mention in your video announcement that you're very interested in knocking on doors as you had in your previous campaigns. When you're knocking on those doors, is that to introduce yourself to more people, or is it, what are you looking for from them?
Yeah, it's a good question. It started out when I was first doing it, when I was running for the House of Representatives 14 years ago, as a means to introduce myself to voters. And what I found very quickly was that it was the best research that I could do on what people cared about. And so why I've continued to knock on doors, even when it's not an election year, is because that's how I keep a pulse to the community. That's how I really know what regular people care about, not just the people that write the office and call the office. That's really important to me, but I want to be proactive in listening to people. So what I will do is, knock doors throughout this state, not only introduce myself to people, but really to get an organic sense of what people care about out there. I think it's unexpected. People have, always been surprised at a candidate for the House and certainly a candidate for the Senate knocking on their door. But what I felt is this, total disconnect between the federal government and regular people out there. And one of the ways I feel like I can create that connection in a new way is to run a just front porch-based campaign.
Do you think that what they want from a U.S. Senator is different than what they wanted from you in Congress, or?
No, I don't think it's different. I think they want somebody that's honest, somebody that cares about them, and somebody that hasn't gone Washington. And I think they maybe have a little different expectation in the Senate. I mean, they watch these, giants of the Senate. They really do seem like creatures of the Beltway. And so I think the most important thing to me is to make people understand that I live here in Connecticut, that my family's here, that this is what's most important to me, and I'm always going to be a member of the House or a member of the Senate whose priorities are based here in Connecticut. But in terms of what you fight for and who you care about, I don't think there's a big difference in what people expect.
Now, you mentioned, these creatures, and certainly for people our age and younger, we grew up with the two senators, our entire lives almost. So how do you think about, or what do you think you can do to kind of make up for the decades of seniority and the decades of relationships building that they have created, and really the power that they've built up?
Right. Well, in the context of this campaign, luckily I'm at no deficiency against the other candidates. We're all going to be running to be first-term United States senators. But listen, I'm no stranger to being the new kid on the block, whether it was showing up as a 25-year-old member of the House of Representatives in Hartford or a 33-year-old freshman in Washington. I've always been the newest and most likely youngest member of that legislative body, and what I've always lacked in seniority, I've made up for with persistence and enthusiasm. I have a little stone on my desk that has sat there since I first got into politics that says extraordinary people are ordinary people with persistence. And to me, that's what it's all about. I'm going to fight harder than anybody for Connecticut, for the things that I care about. And I think that in the end will make up for the fact that we are losing some major seniority in both Senate seats.
And what are the things that you think you'll have to most be focusing on, most fighting for?
Well, listen, it's jobs, jobs, jobs. The problem here in Connecticut is that we tend to be slower to come out of these recessions than other parts of the country. And in particular, with such a strong manufacturing and defense manufacturing base, we need a senator who's really going to focus there. Every manufacturing job that's created in this state creates 3 or 4 more jobs in the economy. And so the work that I've done on the Buy American agenda, the work that I've done to try to prevent outsourcing is going to be incredibly important. But I think we also have to have a future vision of our economy. That's why I think renewable energy legislation is so important, and not just because it's about national security and environmental protection, but because here in Connecticut, where we have companies like UTC and Fuel Cell Energy and Apollo Solar, if we create a national renewable energy policy, and if we have a senator who makes it their top priority, that's a source of tens of thousands of new jobs to our economy. But jobs has to be the focus of the next senator.
You know, we have a new governor, Governor Dannel Malloy, and he has reiterated how he's going to try to create this new relationship constantly in communication with the congressional delegation. I mean, have you seen that, and how do you envision that working?
Well, I think I've met with Governor Malloy in Washington already about as many times as I met with Governor Rell, and though I have a lot of respect for her, she did not make it a real priority to create a relationship with Washington. And the fact is that's going to be incredibly important in the coming years. President Obama is starting to move a lot of federal grants away from direct formulas and to competitive grants, where states are going to have to show that they have a vision and a plan to implement the federal financing. I think that's the right way to go. But it means that we're going to have a governor and a governor's team that's down in Washington fighting with us for those dollars. We've got a great delegation, small but powerful, but I'm really excited about the commitment that Governor Malloy has made to bringing federal dollars back, and I think the partnership is going to be stronger than ever.
All right. Chris Murphy, thanks very much.
All right, Lori.
Thanks for joining us. Up next, do you think twice about calling in sick to work because you're worried you'll lose your job? The debate over paid sick days is raging again at the Capitol.